I'll play devil's advocate here. Like early on in the beginning of my journey, I remember sitting in closed guard and just being trapped in closed guard and
Mhm,
feeling like I'm not learning jujitsu here. I'm just stuck here. We're in this static position, especially in the gi,
mhm.
and where someone can just really grab onto you. And I felt like I'm just wasting so much time here when I could be learning, movement and stuff too. Now, perhaps at six half dozen in that later in the journey, I realized I got to go back to and work on closed guard to deal with this thing. But in my head, it's like, hey, in order for this guy in closed guard to attack me, he's going to have to open his legs, and then we're an open guard game, minus cross collar chokes and stuff like that in the gi. So,
Mhm.
and I know only one of other Robert Nacky of Island Top Team. He's a coach that doesn't even teach closed guard for, I believe, until you're blue belt. So,
Mhm.
your thoughts on that take?
Sure. I think it's an appropriate reaction to the being stuck there, right? And that's the thing that I teach my students from the beginning. When you first come into my gym, the first thing that we talk about is grips, head position, and the three grips that we talk about is a 2-on-1, an underhook, and head control. So if we focus on, okay, let's say just from close guard, right? That's the context. If I'm looking for a 2-on-1, an underhook or head control in that ascending order, once I make those connections, now I can start off balancing you. And I don't think about technique or anything until I can make one of those grips and start to off balance you. Once I do that, then I can start thinking about exchanging positions, whether it's sweeps, wrestling up, taking the back, and then maybe submissions in that effort through there. But
Okay.
I do not create the scenario for people to be like, this is the arm lock from close guard, or this is the triangle from close guard, or even this is the flower sweep, from close guard. Don't even talk about those things because I'm like,
Mm,
why would I? You have no context of what this is to start with. In addition, if you think about doing that to start, that's asking to change the position 180-degree difference. That's very
mm,
challenging for most people. But if I give you small incremental steps to focus on that principality wise work, whether you're standing up, you're in guard, or you're passing, that's ultimately is going to bleed over into every scenario. So if I teach you how to make a connection first and then to start to off balance the person, increase the distance between their hips and their heels, now we really have something. Now you're not going to feel stuck because now you're moving the person around. Now you're not bearing their weight. They're not trying to sit back into your legs and open those guard. They can't even really stand up because they're constantly being off balance. And then I also teach people that it's a 3D position. It's not this linear back and forth stuck on a train track type of scenario. You need
good
to use
point.
the entire space. Your legs should be moving. There should be a whole bunch of things going on that require the other person to not be focused on passing, but just trying to stay upright. And that's the thing that I talk about first and foremost. And I think if more people looked at it that way, I think maybe like, going back to your first experience with it or your initial experience with playing close guard or fighting from there, you wouldn't be like, I'm stuck because now you're like, I'm just moving the person around. Now at least they feel like they're a little bit more off balance, and now you have more space, you have more mobility to cut an angle. And then we talk about not being flat on the back too. I think that's the other killer of these scenarios. Like when you're flat on your back, even from close guard, you have no ability to articulate your body. You're stuck between the person that's on top of you and the mat. So your back extension is very limited. You can't go anywhere. But if you get to the edge of your body, which is your hip and your ribs and your shoulder, now you can really start to articulate your body back and forward like you're leaning back in a chair and things like that. Now you're not stuck right away with that movement. Like, and you don't have to open up your legs. You don't have to do anything. You just have to pick a side and start to rotate in that direction. And things like that make a big difference. So you don't feel like you're compelled to just like, I got to open up my legs or I got to knock the person over right away because now I'm just stuck. Especially in the gi, right? People grab the inside of your armpits and they grab all that material or they grab your collar and they start to really make a strong grip that it's going to be really difficult to break mechanically. But I don't even think
Mhm.
about breaking it mechanically. I think about moving them around with my legs. I push and pull as much as I do anything. That's another thing. People are just trying to pull the person to it. How many times have you seen like white belts stuck in that like death spiral of one hanging on to the other and the one's
Yeah.
pushing, the other one's pulling, and it's just like this
Yeah.
thing? You're like, what's
Yeah.
happening over there, guys?
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I go, hey, if you're trying to pull them forward and they're locking their arms out towards you, it's a good counter to that? Push into them. I go, push
Mhm.
them. Because again, what's going to be the natural inclination they're going to do? When you push them, they're going to try to push back into you. Then you can pull them with
Mm.
your legs. You start to
Mhm.
create more opportunities there.
It's funny because I've been parroting things that I've heard from various people for years and years, and one was just, "What do you tell white belts at the beginning?" Sometimes, one of the things I tell them is just try to be annoying. They don't know
Mhm,
anything, meaning like create kazushi off balance, as you were saying,
mhm,
right? So
mhm,
sometimes in closed guard, I look like a spaz because I'm just
uh-huh.
off balancing. I look ridiculous doing this, but as you mentioned, it opens so much opportunities, and it's such a simple sort of concept to grok, to get and implement into your game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people wanna look like they're straight out of an action movie with everything being precise and they have a ton of forethought. Hey, to be honest with you, let me backfill this idea for you. Combat sports is ugly in most cases. There's
Mm.
a reason that every international wrestling, judo tournament, jiu-jitsu guy, there's always somebody getting their head bandaged up like they're in a Civil War reenactment, you know what I mean? Like, it's because
Mhm.
there's a lot of clashing of the head. There's a lot of violent movement. There's a lot of physicality there. So to your point of making that connection and you look like a spaz, I'd be like, no, you look like you're doing exactly what you should be doing. It's the same thing I
Mm.
talk about when it comes to people when they're standing up with the gi. I go, you don't have to be tremendously talented at changing levels or blast doubles or big uchimatas or anything. I go, but if you can off balance the other person where they can't set up in front of you and start to take their shots or really off balance you, I go, you're already so much further ahead than most people.
Your thoughts on, like, hip height too in closed guard, is that something that you're conscious of?
Yeah, what it comes down to is this is like I'm really trying to increase the distance between their heels and their hips first. And when I can do that, then I can make better connections. So their posture is broken, right? So their butt's away from their heels, they're pitched forward, and they're somewhere posted with their hands. Okay. Now I can start to climb around them a little bit. Now my hip height matters there because what I want to do now is put all the weight on my upper body. So my lower body's light. So my lower body starts to combat their shoulder height. And now they have to, if they want to posture up, have to go against my center of gravity from there. So it's the
Mm,
teeter totter effect. My shoulders are down, so my legs can come up, and then that keeps their shoulders down, so they can't reclaim that ground that I just took away from them by making them post forward and their butts away from their heels. And it
mm,
makes it a lot easier to get in on arms, get in on, even legs if you wanted. It's a lot easier to start focusing on things there because now you're able to isolate stuff. But more importantly, you're able to create an angle of attack and you're starting to outflank them when you do that. My hips are never coming up towards their chin, meaning my zipper line. So if I have a pair of pants on, my zipper line's not coming up to the front of their chin. It's always circling to the outside and around their armpit and going out and back
mm,
towards their scapula and things like that. Trying to get my
mhm,
hips to the outside so then I can get my shoulders to the mat. So then it's easier for me to rotate. Then I can create more momentum. I can start rocking them. It makes it a lot harder for them when they try to posture up. They're going to have to give something up, meaning one of their arms are going to be left behind or their arm, and then their neck is going to be left behind. It's just a very slippery slope for them at that point. And then if they try to like hunker down and try to like really base out, now you can climb all over them because they become really staticky.